Tell me, have the fans stopped tweeting yet? I'd love to keep talking, but I'm having an old friend over to podcast.
So Nathan.
Hey, Brenton.
How you going?
I'm pretty good. How are you going? What's up with you?
You know, I don't know whether it's this film that we watched tonight, but it got me thinking about a lot of things.
Okay.
And I'm just going to start this podcast with a question.
Yep, I'm all ears.
And, you know, things might get a tad serious to start the show, but I think it's an interesting thing to talk about.
Okay.
I was wondering, when was the first time that you can remember having, like, let's say a serious thought in your head, like an adult,
like ouch,
yeah, like
no,
like an adult concept. Like for me, I can remember vividly when I started having literally like an existential crisis when I was a young lad.
Ow. Okay. How young are we talking? When
I'm talking, I can vividly remember at 6 years of age. One night.
You were 6 years old when
I
you had your
was
first
6 years
existential
old
thought.
and I was having existential thoughts one night before bed. And I kid you not, it kept me up for what it seemed like an eternity, thinking this shit over. Like, everyone had gone to bed, the house was dark, and I was just thinking.
What was the trigger when you were 6?
I have no clue. You know what? It was probably...
I feel like this is a therapy session. Like, lie down, Brenton. Like, lie on the couch. And
it probably is. I'm
going to hold up some Rorschach blobs. Just you tell me what's going on. What do you see here, Brenton?
I actually think it was a film. I think it would have been... I think, from memory, it was something we watched. Because Dad and I used to watch a lot of movies. Movies that I should not have been watching at that age.
This is the same man who made you get drunk at a young age, right?
No. But yeah, my father, by the way, took me to see the Lord of the Rings trilogy when it opened, which was 2001. The Fellowship.
Like 5 years old or something.
Yeah, it fucked me up for life. It was like
a 5-year-old child. You couldn't even see above the next seat.
So, Dad, who was a huge fan of that Tolkien's book, took the fam to the opening midnight screening of the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah,
and I was 5. And I remember sitting in that cinema and it was, just for the listeners to know, this is like, for me, this is my moment I probably fell in love with cinema, you know, like,
okay.
I was fucking terrified that whole film because it's a scary movie for like a 5-year-old. There's orcs, there's Balrogs, there's that octopus thing that comes out, and characters, you know, are in constant danger. Oh, there's those ring wraiths that are just... The guys in the cloaks, like, they're horrible imagery.
Yeah.
And you have these, like, this family, this fellowship that is, like, the center characters of this film, and these little hobbits that are, you know, are so weak, you know, against these powerful forces of evil. And I'll never forget being terrified. I was literally hiding, like, under my seat and hiding, but I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. It was like a weird, it was a strange, you know, experience for me because I wanted to hide like from these horrible things happening, but I needed to know that the characters would be okay. So I was sneaking, like, every few seconds I'd open my eyes and be like, oh, is Frodo alright? Is Sam alright? Is Gandalf alright? He's not. Oh shit.
Oh no.
Spoiler alert. And I remember by the end of that film, and I'll have you know, listeners, the last 10 minutes of The Fellowship of the Ring. The Fellowship of the Ring is my favorite Lord of the Rings film, by the way.
Okay.
The last 10 minutes of The Fellowship of the Ring are like how you do emotional impact. Like, it is just from
especially
the point
when you're aiming for a 5-year-old child.
From the point where Frodo is standing on that beach with the ring in his hand and he has the flashback to, I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had ever happened. And I'm as a kid thinking, yeah, you're right, Frodo. I wish none of us had been through that shit. Like, Boromir just got fucked up by the arrows and whatnot. And then Gandalf the Grey's voice comes in. So do all who live in such times. But the line is something, like, we have to, what matters is what we do with the time that's given to us. And it's just, the line hits you, Sam swims out to Frodo, he nearly drowns, and then Frodo saves him, and there's a wonderful moment of friendship, and then they send Boromir over, dead corpse over the cliff, Gimli, Aragorn, and Legolas go to hunt the orcs to save the two little hobbits.
I've never seen you more nerdy in my life.
Oh my god! It's not nerdy. They're great. It's a family. This is Fellowship's a family.
That's exactly what a nerd would say.
And so the film ends and it says, "I'm glad you're here with me, Sam." And then that Shire theme kicks in. And then it goes into that great song "Let It Be" as the credits roll.
5-year-old Brenton whips out a pipe.
This was not just me that I was having this experience, because it was the first time in a cinema that the whole audience stood up and clapped this film.
Your audience had a standing O?
They gave it a standing ovation.
Wow.
And I was crying as a 5-year-old. And I stood up. I remember I stood on my seat and I applauded that movie. And I went home. And Dad was like, "So you enjoyed it?" And I was like, I couldn't really say I enjoyed it because it was terrifying. It was horrible. But
Papa, I'm just happy it's over.
But I was so connected to those characters and I wanted them to be okay. And it's the first. And then I was like, Dad's like, "There's 2 more. There's going to be 2 more." And I remember
Another
thinking,
2. Oh no!
I swear to God, I nearly had a early onset heart attack that night. Like it was like, so I remember going, and then we went and saw the other 2 films at the midnight screenings as well. And for both, I was terrified again, even at 6 or 7. I would never adjust to it because horrifying things happen in those films. But yeah, at the end of all of them, I'm in a sobbing mess.
So this was the trigger for the existential thoughts.
It would have been something. It would have been a film like that.
So you were lying in bed one night, and you suddenly heard out the window, "Frodo, the ring," and you're like, "Oh!" Like Gandalf when he wakes up in the 2 towers and he's all white. And where did your mind go? Like where was it when you were 6?
This is dark. I had the thought that around this time as well, a personal note, that my grandfather had just passed away.
Okay.
So I was dealing with
digging deep here.
I was dealing with the concept of death, and I remember like it made kind of sense to me. Like death made sense. Like you're not here.
You're here, and then you're not. Like,
you're here, but it never clicked. Like, you know, that whole like conscious level of that you're gone.
If Sean Bean can't be here.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember having the distinct thought, like, you know, my granddad's gone, that one day my mum's gonna go too.
Ooh.
And my dad's gonna go. And then all my sisters are gonna go. And then
and then everyone else, and it'll just be I Am Legend, but with me and my
dog. And then it was a scary thought, you know. And it's horrifying. You think, oh my parents will die. My parents will die, and you know, I'll be left here and have to carry on. But then, what's the point? Because one day I'll go.
I'll cook my own meals now. Like,
and I remember having like this strange thought that, and as a 6-year-old, this is quite complicated. I vividly remember thinking that how do we know? Like, I'm conscious. I'm a conscious being. And I know that this reality is from my viewpoint. But how do you know that everyone else actually has a conscience? And there's not just one conscience, which is my experience, that is the experience.
It's a very trippy thought. Like, I remember, you like walk, so I can imagine you the next day, you're just walking around the schoolyard and you're just seeing everyone like having their lunches and playing on the playgrounds. And you're like, are they all real? Like,
I was a total space cadet.
Because you are the protagonist of your world. Like, you know, you live your life, you know, with you, seeing it all through you as you. And yeah, of course, that thought of
does anyone else really have this experience?
There's a great German word, I forget what it is, but there's a great German word, I should look it up, that they have for when you walk past someone on the street and you become aware that every person you walk past, their lives are as equally complex and enriched as yours. And when you look around at a crowd of like, I don't know, maybe 30 people as you walk past them on the street, and each of them have a life as complex and long as yours, it's a very overwhelming thought when you wonder how big the world is.
And it's an important thought, I think.
Yeah, and I wish I knew what that German word is. If you guys know it, then tweet at
us.
Tweet at us. But enough plugging Twitter. I feel like, as a child, it would have been quite bizarre. Did you share these thoughts with anyone as a 6 or 7-year-old?
No. I never shared.
Everyone's just like
not
trading
until
stamps
now
in
have
the schoolyard.
This is the first time in my life I've actually shared that I was having these thoughts at this age.
Wow, we've really made a breakthrough here tonight, listeners.
Yeah, wow.
Let me just get out my clipboard. Pardon me.
But I think it's that's why Mike, and this is kind of stemming, I guess, from the film we've just watched, and questions that it raises. But also, I wanted to ask you that: do you remember ever, like, as a child, starting like serious thoughts? It doesn't even have to be like existential thoughts, but just
I remember like. I've always even as a child I remember attesting to the idea that children are smarter than adults think.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that as a child. I'm like, no, I'm not as dumb as adults think. And of course, as you grow, you become more aware of how naive you were in previous years. But even as a 22-year-old man, I think of how naive I was at like 19 or 20. Like,
of course, yeah.
Each year you get older, you learn more and more, and that naivety becomes perspective. How much you know is entirely perspective, as is age. But I remember as a kid, I remember being very sexually aware. I remember that when it comes to serious ideas. I remember when I was a 5-year-old child, I remember looking at a girl, I mean, like, I like her, I want to kiss her, I find girls pretty, I want to have a chat with them. I remember having that serious thought. I remember being very well aware of that. I remember, because back then people think girls are really gross and that kind of stuff, like, ooh, cuties and all that kind of stuff.
I feel like that's a cover though. I feel
like
it
is.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being like, nah, and I remember like lunchtime would happen, all the boys huddle and all the girls huddle. But I was like walking over to the girls being like, hey, hi, my name's Nathan, what are you up to? And you just be really friendly. And then you come back to the group of boys and like, oh, you talk to them.
Yeah, totally.
You made contact. It's like trying to establish like
with an alien race. Yeah. It's like,
what did they say?
He landed on Mars.
what knowledge did they depart? And I'm like, oh no, they're really like horses. Like
yeah, Saddle Club. Have you heard of that? Yeah.
But as far as existentialism goes, I remember as a I don't think I was as young as you were, but I remember definitely in primary school, I remember being very aware of my limited time. Even as a child, which is very funny because I think now we look at children and we get envious of their youth and how much time they've got. But I remember very clearly, like in grade 3 or in grade 9 or something like that, looking at the years that I had, thinking, okay, great, I'm going to be around here for like 80 years. What do I do? And I remember being like really baffled by that question of like, shit, like what do I do over 80 years? I remember in the junior school library that we had, I remember like ravenously hunting for like biographies and that kind of stuff. Like I remember looking up the great like men and women who existed, the great, the Caesars and the Cleopatras and, the Martin Luther Kings, all that kind of stuff. And I remember trying to work out, okay, these people allegedly had, lives, like the great lives. And I remember thinking, okay, what can I, as a child, do right now? And I remember being very envious of Beethoven because he was a child when he wrote his symphonies. And I remember ardently trying to write my own symphony at like maybe age 11.
That's so cool.
I remember that really, really well. I remember rigorously learning how to read sheet music. And I was a violist back in the day. And I remember trying to write a symphony, like learning all the instruments or trying to see how it worked. I maybe wrote like 50 staves. Is that what it's called? 50 bars, pardon me. I remember writing 50 bars of maybe like a full symphony orchestra. And it was just long semi-breves. It wasn't anything impressive. But I remember thinking I'm going to be the next Beethoven. And then I failed, as all children do. And I remember learning from that, thinking, shit, maybe I'm not going to spend these 80 years well. And I remember thinking that as a child. And that thought was very daunting. And maybe being aware of that at a younger age embraces you for adulthood. But I have never subscribed to the thought that children need to be as sheltered as they are. Because I think not confronting things like this only just leads to ugly resurfacing later on in life. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. But it's balance, isn't it? It's like, what, the
light,
like
the dark, the balance.
Well, there's some things in life that you want your child, I guess, to, you want a child to be able to face the world.
Yeah.
To live in the world, to face people, to interact with people.
To one day become a great movie podcaster.
Yeah, and to one day host their own podcast with a great friend and talk about classic movies.
Oh, guys, Brenton called me great.
But you want them to face the world and to be someone, but at the same time you don't want it's hard to come back from childhood trauma, and there are people that face some horrific events in their childhoods, unfortunately, and it takes time to really unpack that and to move on from that. So yeah, it's that.
I feel
balance.
like this is you right now, Brenton. You're like, I just wish I could embrace death more. Like, if only there was something to watch that would make me really understand the nature of death and the finality of it all.
Well, welcome to Classic Movie Banter.
Hey, we're back.
We're back.
Another week, another film.
Back again.
Another episode with your favorite two boys. It's Brenton and Nathan reviewing movies older than 20 years. What movie are they going to choose this week? Let's spin the wheel to find out. And the winner is Silence of the Lambs.
Released in 1991.
1991? That sounds like a jolly good film. What kind of film is it? Let's find out.
Ooh, let us find out.
Who's pitching again? Is it me or you? Oh, it's you. Ooh. I think it's your pitch this week. Yeah, it's your pitch.
What did we watch last week? Blade.
Yeah, Blade. Yeah, I definitely pitched Blade.
Yes, you pitched Blade. Yeah. Sure. Well, let's go.
Let's do it.
Pitching this movie, Silence of the Lambs, released in 1991. Silence of the Lambs.
What's it about?
What is it about? So,
what's anything about, really?
FBI trainee Clarice Starling.
Yeah, FBI rookie.
Yeah.
FBI noob.
Yeah. Clarice Starling is a high and hopeful recruit. She wants to reach the highest heights in the FBI. And she gets an opportunity from someone in the FBI that she admires to question a psychiatrist serial killer known as Dr. Hannibal Lecter, who is let's say what's the word? They are
he's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy, and the levels of prisoners.
He's a murderer.
What is the highest ranking of prisoner? It's like
maximum security.
He's a maximum security prisoner because
there's no more security. You try asking for it, you ain't getting it.
He is an incredibly intelligent serial killer, who was caught and is now in maximum security prison.
Good job, buddy.
So the plan is for her to question Dr. Hannibal Lecter, whilst in the background. There is another serial killer known to the public as Buffalo Bill, who is skinning women and murdering them. Skinning is the.
She's got to hunt him down.
Yeah, and they're
a ragtag team.
She doesn't have to hunt him down. They are trying to. This is a very complicated, because I'm trying not to spoil it.
Brenton's talking about something complicated.
Far out. Oh no, he said it again. He did not even mean to say it.
If this was an elevator pitch, you would have to shut down the elevator just to get through this.
So this is a thriller where Clarice is trying to solve a case and at the same time keep her sanity, so to speak, as a horribly intelligent serial killer is trying to pick her apart.
Very good, very good. You brought it back. Well done. Well done.
I got there in the end.
Good stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what a film. We watched this film very late at night.
Oh, we did.
It was dark, it was in my lounge room, and I was definitely, huddled up. So Brenton comes over to my house and he's like, we're going through movies, what should we watch this week? And as soon as we come across Silence of the Lambs, Brenton's just like, let's do it. And I'm like, no. And he's like, come on, let's do it. And I'm like, no. And then he's like, Nathan. I'm like, fine, Brenton, put away the machete, I'll do it. And he finally tucks it away and we watch it. And now, full disclosure, I do not like horror films. I am a big scaredy cat. Very big scaredy cat. I get frightened very easily.
So do I, as you noted before.
Evidently from our opening. And so Brenton has seen this before. I have not. And so I was very nervous going into this movie.
I wouldn't class this as a horror film necessarily, and I'd wonder what you'd think now, having seen it.
That's the film's biggest thing. I've wanted to watch this film for years and years, and I haven't because I just don't watch horror movies. They're just not my piece of cake. I haven't found enjoyment out of them until very recently because of a couple of very intelligent horror films like Get Out and all that kind of stuff. And like Get Out, this film is a thriller. Even then, a very it's not that it's thrilling in parts, but for the most of it, it's just a crime drama.
It
Essentially.
is, yeah.
Like it does get thrilling at certain points,
Yep.
but yeah, this film's I don't know. This film's like acclaim as like the first. Did it win Best Picture or something like that?
I think it did, yeah.
It's like the first horror film to win Best Picture. I'm like, no, it's like. I wouldn't call it a horror film that's won Best Picture. I would have called Get Out a horror film that would have won Best Picture, but
yeah. But even Get Out, I'd call more of a thriller than a horror film. But it has more horror tropes.
It does.
Certainly, a lot more than this one does.
Thankfully, this one doesn't have jump scares, which I was very grateful for.
Yes.
But boy, does it! Yeah.
It
Do you want
knows
to rip
how
the band
to.
off? You lead this. This is your baby. I
Okay.
reckon you go for it.
Okay. Well. Okay, I'll give my perspective. Yeah. So I've seen this film a number of times. I actually watched it when I was young as well.
Of course you did.
I watched
God,
it.
this
I
explains
think I was
so much
around
about you,
10 when I
Brenton.
watched Silence of the Lambs. And there's a certain scene involving Buffalo Bill that I remember. I was watching it with my dad, obviously, and there's a certain scene with Buffalo Bill.
Did they make you buffalo wings after this?
Yeah. That dad kind of realized that his 10-year-old son was watching this film with him, and he went, "Oh, what have I done as a father?" And I was like, "Dad, that's a good movie. Just keep going." So I've seen this film
Do we
a
get to
few
go
times.
to Macca's after this, father?
It's fantastic. I really love this movie. I think it's the epitome of what a thriller should be. And I think it is one of, if not the best crime thrillers of all time that I have seen up to this point. It has characters that are deep, characters that are interesting, characters that have stood the test of time. And I think this story is endlessly kind of... I should say not this story, but the characters... the lead character in this, Clarice, is endlessly relatable. And you really care for her. And
How do you find Clarice relatable personally?
I think everyone has their kind of inner kind of chaos that they have to fight and feel like they have something to prove to the world because of, those things. And so like she faces those demons and tries to come out on top. And that's kind of her struggle, among other things. There's a lot of themes in this movie that are pretty clear.
Lots of themes.
And she's facing some pretty monstrous figures.
Yeah, must I say, like, for it, why she's first assigned on this because her boss recommended her or something like that? Like,
yeah, and it was just like, we need someone to question this guy.
It's like, you're getting a rookie trainee for, like, the FBI, like, doing this interrogation. I'm like, why is there a trainee on this case? It's like a massive, especially for Buffalo Bill, to get information, because apparently Buffalo Bill's like the case going on in America at the time. And the fact that they're having this like FBI trainee interviewing Hannibal Lecter, like it's, I don't know, I found that a little bit unbelievable, because like... But
it doesn't give you got to remember at the start of this film, it doesn't give you the context of why she's interviewing Dr. Lecter.
No.
She's just thrown in, and she's as confused as anyone, I think. She tries to piece together for herself why she's being given this task to question it, because there's no link between Buffalo Bill and Hannibal Lecter.
No,
it's just
and the whole film you're trying to work that out. Like, yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I really, really enjoyed this film. I do not think it's a flawless film. I think it's really excellent. I thought, the acting is outstanding. The acting is genuinely outstanding. Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins, like, what a powerhouse couple. I think my biggest gripe with the film, and I don't want to make this sound like I think I didn't like it because I loved it, but I think it is the story a little bit. And I don't want to say it's like, I love her story and I love his story. I don't know if this makes any sense, but like the combined story, I think is where I might have some trepidation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I feel like after watching this film, I wanted to see more of Anthony Hopkins. I wanted to see more of Jodie Foster. And I feel like the film was flirting with him being the antagonist, but the film couldn't make up its mind whether Buffalo Bill or Hannibal Lecter or even Jodie Foster herself was an antagonist to Jodie Foster. And I feel like it kept on bouncing between the three. And in the end, it only gave us a surface level, I don't know, takedown at the end. I don't know, because I'm trying to figure out what this film is saying a lot. And I think it's saying, about like dealing with personal trauma, about, facing demons, all that kind of stuff. But like, I feel like the version of this I would have loved to see is just with Anthony Hopkins as as the antagonist the whole way through, because I don't know, am I making sense?
Oh yeah, you're making sense, but I do disagree with you.
Yeah. Let's have a difference of opinion. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I love Anthony Hopkins, and he is. Let's talk about something we both agree on. He is like the standout of this film. Like,
oh yeah, I'd say everyone's like he steals the show, and I feel like the character itself is like it's one of like the greatest characters of all time.
yeah.
Like it's
funny because going into this, you hear about Hannibal Lecter, so I'd raised the bar as like, you know, this is one of the great villains of all time.
I feel like we were saying before, Jodie Foster's and the character itself as well as her performance hold it. They hold their own. Like,
yeah.
and I feel like Clarice, to a certain extent, like she is the lead of this.
By
film.
the way, isn't that like the worst name ever? Like
Clarice. I love it. I love the way.
That sounds like a librarian's name. Like,
I love the way that Anthony kind of delivers it with that kind of dry sarcasm of what
Clarice.
a shit name it is. Like,
what is that accent he's doing, by the way? Like, I love it, but like, where's he
I'm not
from?
sure.
Is it supposed to be like a really vague accent so we can't tell where he's from?
I actually think Hannibal Lecter's European. Yeah,
that sounds like something an American would say. Like, oh, he's European. He's from somewhere not here.
Yeah, I honestly understand where you're coming from, because the plot of this film only really comes together 2/3 of the way in.
Yeah, it's
I know what you're saying, like, because it's very vague as to what she's meant to be doing, and
how much he knows, and like also she's putting a lot of eggs in one basket. Like she's putting a lot of faith in him actually having knowledge, because there's no real evidence that he knows anything. Really.
No, that's right.
He just could be fucking with her.
It's purposeful. I think because the film establishes so well. Actually, all the characters in this film are so well established in terms of direction, editing, screenplays. But like they just each have
what
moments.
Characters? It's her. It's him. Who else?
Him,
Bill?
Buffalo Bill, the FBI agent.
Which one?
The main one. The one that she that's her boss.
Oh, as in like the guy who says, "I'm not the key keeper," like that one.
Yeah. What's his name? Oh, they said so.
Do you reckon he has a big character arc in this film? I don't think he does.
Oh, I don't necessarily think he has an arc, but I think Clarice has an arc in the film.
Yeah, she has an arc.
Hannibal Lecter, maybe, but no. I feel like she's the only one that has an arc. I feel like for me, I think main theme of the film is like she's really the only kind of human being in this film, and everyone else is kind of these
like batshit crazy,
antagonistic monsters that are just. Oh, but what's interesting in terms of that is that Hannibal is probably the easiest one, I guess, to communicate with, and which is a fascinating character. It's just, oh god, and he's so intelligent. So I feel like it's not so much that he knows they know he knows something. It's more that they need his intelligence to understand this other monster. It's like they need...
Yeah, that's the thing. Because they're saying like, you know, Buffalo Bill, we're going to try to hunt him down. But Anthony Hopkins is way more scary than Buffalo Bill. Especially because when you meet Buffalo Bill, I'm not scared of Buffalo Bill.
Oh, like, I don't know, dude. Like
they paint him as this like sore loser who's just misunderstood. And Jodie Foster's trying to understand Buffalo Bill. And you know, with the whole like trans angle and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I just didn't buy it. Even after finishing the film, I just didn't get like this guy, this Buffalo Bill.
Really,
like,
for me, that's like, I understand that he doesn't have the time spent on him that the others do, because he is kind of the what would you call it? He is kind of like, he's the spoiler of the film almost. He's the guy in the shadows. Like, you're not meant to know what he's up to, what his end goal is.
And when you find out, it's just, I don't know, I was disappointed.
Oh, like, really? Like, I think for me, like, personally, I know it's, in terms of screen time, he doesn't get a lot of time, but the time given to him, I feel like as a character, like, it is quite...
I know, I just found him to be batshit crazy for the sake of being batshit crazy. Like they justify in the film why he is the way he is, but like, again, I just find Anthony way more like interesting.
Oh, I agree. I think Hannibal's a way more interesting character, but I feel like...
And so I was confused, like, why, when they wrote this film, they decided to make this their antagonist. Why did they just not make Hannibal Lecter? Why did they have him trapped at the start, and then why did they have him, like...
I feel like that the film is more interesting without Hannibal, with Hannibal not being a main antagonist. I feel like Hannibal works in this film because he is riding that fine line between antagonist and helping the protagonist.
As like anti-hero almost.
Yes. And then the film does away with that at a point.
It does.
Yeah. And
it becomes very clear as to which side
yes, yes. But
that's when the film starts getting good, because he actually, starts doing shit.
But I think some of his most fascinating scenes are when he is
just having chats with her.
Yes.
And I agree. And I love those scenes. And like, I would have just watched the whole film of that. Like her just trying to understand the psyche. You know what I mean? Have you seen the TV show Mindhunter on Netflix?
No, I haven't.
It's a great TV show about in the 1970s, like the discovery of serial killers and like the psychology behind it. And it's made up basically of 10 episodes on Netflix about these two guys going around cells and just interviewing serial killers and just them just doing essentially what Hannibal Lecter did, just like monologuing about how batshit crazy they are. And like, I don't know, comparing this to that, I just felt like the film had enough to do with just Hannibal and Jodie. I just didn't care for the buffalo. Like every time you when he abducts someone and they get trapped, it's just I found it generic. Like I've just seen it so many times. Think of all the cop shows you've seen, that kind of stuff where they have serial killers. Like
really, I wouldn't even compare this to cop shows. Like, and especially that aspect of it. I feel like Buffalo deserves a lot more credit than you're giving him.
I loved him. I thought he was great when at the very end of the film when there's a sequence and I finally, for the first time, was genuinely terrified of him. Like,
and I think the reason you feel that, and I feel like that's you giving credit to it, because the points that you see him earlier in the film, you don't actually understand who he is or what he is. Or I shouldn't even say what he is, like who he is and why he's doing the things he's doing.
What is this
thing? So it's like pieces of the puzzles that are constantly being solved. So yes, like he abducts people, and yes, it could be seen as generic. But at the same time, like the way he's performed, I think it's a great performance from.
Oh yeah, the actor's great. Don't get me wrong, the actor's great. I'm genuinely only poking at the writing. Genuinely.
Yeah,
I wanted a different story.
I feel it's justified, dude. Like I really do. Yeah. And I feel like it's for the betterment of this plot. And I feel like we only get to where we get to with the other two characters because Buffalo's in the shadows.
There needs to be something. I understand it, because it's like, Jodie Foster rocks up to this prison and she's trying to understand from this, because Hannibal Lecter is a psychiatrist.
Yes.
And so she does not have the skills. Despite, I still don't know why she's there in the first place, because she's just an FBI rookie. But she's there talking to him and she's like, oh, well, why is this happening? Who's this guy? Tell me. Because Hannibal says, I know the dude. And you're not really sure if he actually does, but he gives her all these hints. And she just keeps floating with him the idea of freedom, and there's just this great spar back and forth. And he tries to find out more about her backstory, and he's trying to crack her and that kind of stuff. But she's holding her own ground, and he actually buys into it. Like you see Hannibal really toying with her, and then once this happens, it just cuts back to Bill, and he's just like, oh, he's doing some weird shit, and then it finally cuts back to Jodie. Like, I don't know. I feel like also, you know what? This film was very long, in my opinion. I thought the pacing was slow. Great in some parts, really, really excellent, but damn slow in other parts. I don't know. Watching this again, did you find it slow or like?
I've never watched this film and thought it was slow.
Whoa.
Yeah, for me it's...
Wow, we're really different
for me it's like perfect pacing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's some stuff you could have cut out, like her training and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, but I love the training. I think like it's such like, again, like
the weird bug guys, the forensic bug guys. The way
this film builds it, that it's kind of pillar characters and like introduces them, and with just simple moments of kind of human interaction and like those training moments really show where she's at and what she's about.
I would love to see. Okay, if they're gonna have that kind of stuff, I wanted to see stuff more like the funeral scene. Where like you see her work reflect from her past life. Now she's trying to overcome that. I thought that was very.
For me, that's the most generic bits. They're the most generic parts of the movie. Yeah,
we're so 180 on this.
Wow. For me personally, like they're the only bits that I'm kind of like, it's good, but at the same time, it's not. Jodie Foster just is that character at the same time, and I think it's to the film's betterment that there's only little flashback moments that kind of connect it, because the moments that we finally understand why those flashbacks are in the film is just so gratifying. Going back to the Buffalo Bill thing though, I feel like Buffalo needs to be in the film because this
you would not want to see a film where it's just Jodie Foster versus Hannibal Lecter.
No. Like,
really?
Well, yeah, because that film exists.
Does it?
Yeah, there's a sequel to this.
Is there?
Yeah.
Is there a sequel to this?
Yeah, there's a series of books these films are based on.
Is that better? Is it better when you just see Jodie Foster?
I've never read the books, so I can't say whether this is a great adaptation or not.
To be continued, to be confirmed.
With the themes of this film in regards to how Jodie Foster's character links to both Hannibal and Buffalo.
Yeah.
Buffalo kind of needs to be in the film.
What?
Buffalo needs to be in the film in the sense that like there's things that link these characters, and there's reasons like I think
Buffalo and Jodie.
Yeah, not directly, not as though like these characters have a past or a history.
Yeah.
I mean thematically there are links. So I feel like that's part of the genius of this screenplay.
We really should get into spoilers. Like,
yeah, we need to get into spoilers because
talk about this.
I need to. Yeah, we really need to get into spoilers. So with
we're holding ourselves back in
with
this,
that being said, I will say that this is in my opinion, this is a really well made film.
Yeah,
it's got a great screenplay, a great plot, awesome themes, incredible acting. It's very well shot and edited. The editing in this film is phenomenal. I think that it's got a great pace, and yeah, there's few faults I have with this film personally. Yeah, that's what I would say, and I would give it a big thumbs up.
You know what? I'm not going to give it. Controversial. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not saying this to antagonize you or anything. No,
of course not. Of course not, dude.
I'm trying to think of like, is this film worth watching? Like, not just like the Thursday Netflix night thing, but like genuinely, like, let me do a compliment sandwich. I feel like that's a good way of doing this. Like, this is a genuinely fantastically made film. It is, I will say, yeah, the editing is fantastic. The acting is high caliber. Like, Anthony Hopkins absolutely deserved the Oscar that he did. He's a fascinating villain.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's so cold and calculated, but also just so... There's something like there's the classic British villain who's like smart and intelligent and has these amazing monologues. I don't know what it is that makes Anthony Hopkins so different with it.
I think Hopkins is just so lived in this role. He's so
there's such a. It's not that he's calm. It's just that he's ready to explode, but you're not sure when. And then when he finally does, it's worth the wait. And so, and it's funny when he does, the character doesn't change at all. Like, you believe, this character's capable of what he's doing. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I learned from this movie that I couldn't have learned from other art. I know what the thesis of Silence of the Lambs is. I understand what its themes are, about overcoming trauma and, facing the demons and, trying to understand why people turn bad. I understand that kind of stuff, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen it executed. This is really so hard. This is hard to convey. I think I've just seen its execution handled with more intelligent underpinning. I don't know. I'm trying to think of better examples so I can let you know what in my head I'm comparing it to.
Yeah, I'd love to hear some examples, but
I think
take time, dude. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm comparing him to Joker. I'm comparing him to Mindhunter. I'm comparing him to Red John. I'm comparing him just to the serial killers. And yeah, I think my biggest gripe that's holding me back is that he wasn't the main villain. And that may sound like a nitpick, but like,
I don't even think it's a nitpick. I just think that that's just not this movie.
Yeah, and let me just say, I'm not trying to eliminate Buffalo Bill. Like, I'm glad we saw him, but I feel like I would have loved the film even more than I already love it if he was. If he was not the final antagonist, if it was Anthony Hopkins.
Okay.
Because also because this film it doesn't have a finality to it almost.
No.
And I don't know. I feel like that in itself is traumatic. Like as any great horror film is, there's that sort of constant enemy, that constant demon that you got to keep battling. So I don't know. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, the more we talk, maybe I'll be able to articulate this better, but...
Yeah, that's fine.
And like, this is, if you love a good thriller, definitely watch this. If you love seeing outstanding acting, definitely watch this. If you love cannibalism for whatever reason, then definitely watch this.
Yeah.
If you love butterflies, definitely watch this. Great soundtrack, by the way.
Yeah. Music's incredible.
Outstanding. Yeah. But I don't know, like...
I will say to your point that I think you're... Just from listening to you, I feel like you're like searching for a work. Like, you like these characters. And you're like searching for a work that kind of isn't this work. but it's another work that you might relate to a bit more and might enjoy more. And I feel like that might exist. So, like, it'd be interesting if you watch the sequels to this. There's a television show based off Hannibal.
Yeah, I knew there's a TV series.
Read the books. I don't know. Like, because I feel like you're, like, into it, but there's something, like, that you're not relating to.
Shining got me more as a horror film.
Oh, yeah, Shining, yeah.
I feel like Jack Nicholson was, like, almost scarier than Hannibal and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess it goes to do with expectations, too, because I just have never seen this as a horror film.
Yeah.
I think Shining is,
maybe
like...
Maybe that's it. Maybe that is it. Maybe I was expecting a horror film.
Because I agree, Shining is one of the, if not one of the greatest films, horror films of all time. Like, it's so up there. And yeah, Jack Nicholson's performance is genius in that film. It is genius. Yeah,
I know, I was kind of expecting that. Just like a clear protagonist, a clear antagonist, and they're just toying with each other.
Dude, this film's...
The serial and the cop, you know what I mean?
This film's murky waters. This film is complicated. This is
really
such a Brenton film. Yeah,
even Jodie isn't that clear cut.
Of course not.
And I shouldn't deride a film for that. If anything, I should applaud it because, it reflects the complexity of character. But I don't know. I feel like in it, me just personally as one person just found that.
And that's totally fine, dude, because you've just gone through it and said, hey, technically these aspects of this film succeed, but for you, there's things that you just can't. And that's totally fine.
And you know what, also, like, we literally just finished watching
it. And it's hard to...
I might need time. Like, my opinion might change. When we get to episode 20 and we do that reflection thing again.
Yeah, it'd be great to revisit it. And if, it'd be interesting to see with time or, maybe if, I don't know if you want to have a second viewing or maybe if you want to read the book. I don't know, but...
Let me sit on it. But, like, I don't know. I just feel like initially walking out of it, like, the performances blew me away, but the story itself, I don't think did. I didn't see that much novelty in the story. I didn't see anything new that I hadn't seen before. I think that's my biggest gripe with it. Yeah,
I understand that. I can understand, like
what's the thesis? Like, serial killers are bad? We knew that. It's like...
I think it's deeper than that. I think it's... Because I feel like that it's not a... For me, this... Let's get into spoilers.
Oh yeah,
Spoiler
we've rated
time,
it.
Spoiler time.
Yeah.
Spoiler time. So for me, this film is just not about the serial killers. It's about Clarice Starling, and
what? Her journey to what?
Her journey to her attempt to get rid of the screaming of the lambs, to find the silence of the lambs. That's the film. That's what it's about.
Which we never find out.
No, we never find out, and we don't. That's the because
maybe that's it. Yeah, it's
because
trauma.
I think that's right. I think this film is like
how to deal with trauma.
She's never gonna find the silence of the lambs, and it's like Dr. Hannibal Lecter knows this. He's like a genius level psychiatrist, and he constantly is questioning her on this, and he's trying to get to that root of whatever.
This whole film's just him like giving her a therapy session. Essentially,
it is, and she gives into it. She makes she makes. So it's so funny in this film, like talking spoilers, how like every time she goes into meet Dr. Lecter.
Like through like 10 different gates.
Yeah, that's right. And they're always saying these rules of practice with like this is a maximum security prisoner. He's a serial killer. He's genius level intellect. He will deconstruct you. And and the FBI guy says like, oh yeah, we fully intended that to happen for him to just deconstruct you. And, but we couldn't like give you the plan, so to speak, because we knew he'd figure you out straight away. So they kind of send her in as like this guinea pig. And he treats it like a therapy session as he would with one of his victims. And she, she kind of gives in and like makes that deal with the devil, so to speak, and kind of is using it to help her solve this case. But honestly, it's almost like she has that connection with him and she needs that understanding, I guess, of what she's going through, Yeah. She as it goes on, she's kind of tentative to share information about herself, but then she does, And it could be.
And it's interesting because, I remember that first meeting, like, I thought how fantastically directed that was because the camera just goes like. By the way, the director loves his like center shots, like how like where the characters are perfectly in the center of the frame.
Yeah, and they stare
every third shot.
Dude, they stare down that lens to it.
Oh, don't they? Especially Anthony Hopkins, his wide-eyed stare, like. God, he does that so well. And it's so funny because when you see Tony Hopkins in real life, like he just doesn't do that. He squints a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe he's deliberately done that since the film's come out. He's just like, I can't be seen doing this.
Fun fact, just watching this film, just discovering things as as I watch it again for, I think this is like 4th or 5th time I've seen it. But I was, the POV stuff. So all the,
God.
all the shots of there's basically all the characters in this film that interact with Clarice have a moment where they'll stare directly down the lens, and you are Clarice's POV. You are taking in this character. And it's so interesting because I think the only character we don't get that with is Buffalo Bill. Until the ending in the final finale, we get his POV
and that's
looking
the
at Clarice,
shit.
and I think this adds to it. I was like, that's what it is. It's like this, like, it's the opposite of what we've got this whole film. We've been in her POV, and then we've suddenly switched to this guy in his night vision, and it's so unsettling. It is like, ugh, that whole. By the way, round of applause for that finale.
Oh my god!
Like,
so you and I were sitting next to each other, and like, there were plots of the film where I was just gasping, that kind of stuff, like, oh, this is so tense, that kind of stuff. But that scene where she just knocks on his house, and you know it's the wrong house.
Yeah.
And they all burst in, and I'm like, no, this is way too clean, because you can see her knocking on the door. I'm like, no, Jodie Foster, what are you doing? She just has no backup. She has no torch. I'm like, you idiot. And she goes on in, and she's just waiting. You can work it out. There's all these like butterflies around the fucking house, and she's like, "Oh, but where's your phone at?"
The other thing I noticed actually during that scene was because we hear the lamb story. We hear that she went downstairs, went out to the barn, and the lambs were in the barn being slaughtered, and she needed to save, and she saved one of the lambs.
Yeah.
And the same thing, history repeats itself at the end. She goes down the stairs, she finds the girl and has to save that one girl, thinking that it will like redeem whatever.
And that girl's just like, fuck off. The girl's just like, what are you doing? Because the girl can recognize
and she
that.
succeeds, but it's like she's like having that almost like PTSD of like reliving that experience again at the same time.
That's when the film's great. Yeah. I love that moment. But like that scene itself, like when the power switches out, I was like, fuck.
It's
like,
great.
I was like, it's so scary. And then when it cuts to him and you see her through his night vision goggles, I've never held my breath so much.
And he starts like playing with like her and like reaching out and like feeling in front of her face.
So creepy. It's so funny because like the previous scene, he's just like dancing to some weird music video, and you can see his like nipple rings and all that stuff. It's such a weird scene where he's just dancing to this music video, and she's trying to distract the dog and all that kind of stuff. And like you're like, this shit ain't gonna work. But then hey, he does, and then that's it. Like he finishes his little performance, and the dog goes down, and he's like, why'd you do that? And you're like, mate, come on. Like, look at where you are. I mean, I love it when he shouts at her like, you don't know pain. I'm like, that's a little bit thick from you. Like,
this film has like two of the best. That's like one of the best set pieces, I feel. And then the other greatest set piece is the escape scene.
Oh my god, because I did not see that coming.
Dude.
I thought he was going to be trapped the whole film. I thought I genuinely believed it. I thought it was going to be like a Shutter Island kind of thing where like she visits him on the island at the end and he's like, actually, Clarice, it was me all along. So it was like going to be one of those moments. Like, what's that film with Edward Norton where he plays that cuckoo guy who ends up, spoiler alert, not being so cuckoo after all?
Fight Club.
Not Fight Club, no. It's, what is it? He's like in a jail cell and Edward Norton's like just being like, and I think Richard Gere or something like that is interviewing him over the whole film.
Oh, yeah. It was like the film that made Edward Norton, and I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
And then, spoiler alert, and then at the end of it, he reveals, he was crazy all along. And, I felt like it was going to be like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not.
But it's not.
He gets out.
And boy, does he get out. Because that cocky guy's like leaving behind the pen. You're like, you fucking idiot. Like when you see him leaving behind the pen.
One of the greatest like escape scenes. Like it's so, and it's like that set piece just goes on for ages.
Yeah, it just goes
takes its time, and it's just like,
that's great pacing. That was amazing pacing.
Epic. It's so epic. And like when they come in and you see like his kind of like trophy of how he's strung that guy up, and then of course the dastardly move of cutting that man's face off and putting it over his own.
Which, by the way, I called.
Yeah, dude.
Like, as soon as the security guy was passed out down, I remember thinking like, does that look like Anthony Hopkins? I remember like just genuinely looking at the guy going, I swear that looks like Anthony
hiding
Hopkins.
in plain sight. It's like, but it's that thing of like watching every time I watch it now, because at first like I kind of had the same thought. I was like, is that him? And I think you're meant to.
Yeah.
And then you go, but now that like I know what happens, and every time I see that scene, I wish I could unsee it almost and relive seeing that for the first time.
But like, I didn't find it that surprising. And then
it's not surprising. It's just that fun thing of like,
you're just like, oh, he's gonna get.
Because once he's out, you know he's gonna get out.
Oh, he's
There's no way that guy's getting caught again.
Yeah,
like, So it's like, the question isn't so much is he gonna get out? Is how has he done it? And so you're like, could that be it? And that's like, oh, like they're treating this guy and like getting him out. And then the whole elevator thing happens. And then as soon as that happens, you're like, oh, he's out. He's out
like,
the ambulance.
And it's so funny because the whole film you hear him like Hannibal the cannibal, like you hear about it. And like the whole film he's very polite and he's very well measured. And like he doesn't do anything violent. But then when he finally just like picks the locks, you're like, oh, it's gonna happen. And boy, he's aggressive. Like he like bites that security guard's face and he's all red. He's like, no. Like,
blood's just everywhere and it's all over his face. And the way, it's almost like the complete ecstasy he has. It's like the one moment he shows like emotion is when he's beating that officer with the baton.
Really big swings as well.
And he's just, it's horrifying.
Horrifying, but like a cool horrifying.
Oh yeah, like brilliant. Just brilliant from Anthony Hopkins.
God. I was just enthralled with it. And then I just like what a great scene. And then at the end when he's just like, hello Clarence. Like she's at like the party. Clarice.
That's just how he's always introduced. It's like his first introduction is just so powerful. How you go down that corridor from her perspective again and you see these like lunatics, like these male lunatics that are like at their jail cells, like trying to get out. They're doing horrible things in there. They're muttering, like horrible, unspeakable things to Clarice as she goes down. And then the camera rounds the corner to this monster that we've been told about for the first 20 minutes.
Just standing there.
And he's just standing there. He's like, hello. How are you? Like
how come he gets a glass? Like the other one's just got like the bars, but like
and he's well cultured. He has his
he's got
drawings up.
He's a great artist, I must say. Like well done, Anthony Hopkins.
That drawing he does at the end of Clarice and the lamb that's on the table, and you're just like, oh boy, Clarice, why did you open your mouth?
It's like, what are you doing? It's like, also, why does she tell him the truth? Why doesn't she just lie about her backstory? Like. The guy's like, he'll see through it, but like, hello, she made this whole lie about him going to a different prison
and she was told not to share anything with him. But it's funny in his estimation how he just says to her, there's that line, it's that great line, he's like, Clarice, you're so like frank. And it's so true. She can't be anything else but honest. It's like...
She's very tenacious, I must say. Like, good on her. Like, good on you. I've also remember at the start of the film, I forgot how short Jodie Foster was. Like, Jodie Foster's such a small human. I keep forgetting. Because like, she's just walking around the FBI school and she's just like, I love that scene where she walks the elevator, there's all those blokes in the red shirts and she's just standing there like, whoop. Here's me.
And those elevator doors just shut and it's like,
Oops, there she goes.
That's another thing in this film. It's constantly... there's that theme kind of like... kind of the woman in the workplace. In not even like the workplace. It's like the...
Oh, yeah.
Like,
see, I think that's the theme or the motif of the film. It's about, it's about the male gaze.
Yeah.
It's about being a woman in a male gaze.
And that's what I was going to say. I think it's worth mentioning as well because that lends to that whole POV thing as well. And literally like staring at this woman and the way some of the men question her in this film is pretty...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like... It's just invasive and she just takes it so professionally as well. Like
of course,
you never see her crack ever, really.
And the only one that really cracks her is Hannibal.
Yeah.
And obviously Buffalo. It's not even Buffalo, it's the situation at the end again.
How creepy was it when he finally touches her? His finger strokes her. I don't know why, but out of everything in that movie, that's what freaked me out the most. I was like, it's such a soft stroke of a finger.
I think it's the editing too, because you think the moment's over. You think that they've made eye contact, she's got the thing, and then the shot just goes to this slow extend of the finger and he strokes it, and then it's yanked away.
Also, there's like very little body contact between characters in the film. I think deliberately.
Yes.
So when it does happen, you're like, it's like,
you feel it. It's like,
there's a lot of dumb characters in this film. Especially the woman who helps the guy with the furniture. Like, what are you doing?
I've seen, I don't know, people do stupid shit, dude.
You introduce the character for doing some karaoke in her car. Like, here's a victim. Like, here's a lamb.
But it's also like, you're dealing with a psychopath and again, like...
why would she go first into a van?
Like, you gotta give credit to the psychopath. Like, I know as a movie watcher, when you know the tension's building,
it's like when they walk down into the basement. You're like, don't go down into the basement. But it's like that same thing.
But it's the perfect foil of, the arm's broken. He's kind of this bumbling guy. Like, how could he hurt anyone?
Just help him without being first in the van. It's like common sense, lady.
But it's well acted. She has the moment where she thinks about it, and then he takes advantage of that moment, and he just keeps keeps at it, and it's.
I'm not saying her instinct to help him was dumb. I'm just like, just don't be the first one in the van.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she has that pause, and then he just jumps on it, and that's what I think's like. Really, you're just like, oh god, like this guy is just. He's textbook. He
really is textbook, isn't he?
It's like the one thing he's good at in life is that, and it's like the most horrible thing you could be.
I really love also like I know I shat on Bill before, but I do like how they took the transgender angle with it, like how how he chose to do it because he thought being a reject, he just said, "Oh, these groups are people are rejects.
That's
as well.
right.
I'm going to join this group."
It's
and you see him like tuck his dick in between his pants, in between his legs at one point, so it looks as though he has a vagina, and he thinks as though he's like part of it.
Yeah,
and you're
I like how the film, it's deeper than just being like, because at a point you're like, is it saying that like trans people are like this messed up and like, but it's not. It's that because then
he is,
Lecter
and he's trying to join this group that definitely doesn't want him in.
That's right. It's like he's trying to use that label to justify how he feels, I guess. Like when it's not, it's actually a deeper trauma that I think Lecter alludes to that at some point. He's like, no, it's not. It's not because he's trans, so to speak. It's because there's a deeper trauma there that's obviously happening. And it's good that it makes that justification as well, because that's too simple and too kind of... It'd be lazy if that's what it was. You know what I mean? Like, and it would... This film would not have aged, I think, if it had have gone that route. So yeah. What else should we talk about?
How fucking gross that cocoon wasn't that corpse.
Oh, man.
When she pulls it out, I'm like, oh.
Dude, that's what the film does really well.
Great corpses.
Well. Like,
really good corpses.
And
God, that was gross.
And great. But it was gross because like they don't show it. They show the reactions.
No. Yeah.
I love it when horror and
the
like,
imagination is always the scariest.
Exactly, that's the scariest thing. And so you see like, and Chloe, she acts so well in this film when she like reacts to like.
Jodie Foster's a good actor.
Oh yeah, man. It's like the other one is that this is.
You've seen Taxi Driver, right?
No, no, I haven't.
How have you not seen Taxi Driver?
I know, dude.
What?
But there's that photo she's given at the start. It's like, by the way, this is what he did when the nurse bent over him when he was saying that he wasn't feeling well, and basically bit her face off, bit her tongue off and stuff.
And we deliberately can't see it.
Replace one of the eyes and stuff. And you never see that photo, but you see her reaction and you just feel it. You're like, oh
no, Jodie Foster, no.
Yeah. So that when he does unleash in that moment and you see the violence, it's like all the more... I was
grossed out by that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, there's like, I was just I can't believe you haven't seen Taxi Driver. That's just that's bonkers because that is the Jodie Foster film. Like,
I'll have to watch it, dude. Yeah,
it's a quality watch.
It'll go on the list.
It's Scorsese. Like, it's what a great performance from her playing a child prostitute. I actually didn't. I wasn't writing down that much like I normally do in these movies because like I was just so engrossed by the story. I was like, damn. I like the part I found it really funny how like at the end of the movie she becomes an FBI agent. Like she has like whole graduation ceremony. I'm like, was this all a part of the training? Like after everything she's been through, like it's like you graduated. I know, it's like weird graduation ceremony. I'm like, she should get a medal for this. She should be commended. Like she's the one who captured Buffalo
Bill. She went
Bill
into the depths of hell. And,
like
and saved so. Like,
she caught like this this serial killer who had like a congressman's like daughter or something like that, and. All she gets is she just like she's in a row of people like she passes graduation and then probably the next person's like, and now Gary gets his graduation medal. It's like, no, it's so plain.
Yeah,
I remember genuinely laughing at that part in the movie. I'm just like, no, she should have this like full ceremony.
It's also interesting that like I find
does everyone have to go through this to pass the FBI?
I find that it links back to that FBI guy that I think is so interesting. Like, and in that viewing, then Is
he though?
But because he's constantly like justifying kind of his choices, I guess it's like,
what
like
choices?
I sent you into Hannibal Lecter like without knowing this and that because I knew that he'd figure you out, and then like he wouldn't give you this information, so it was all me.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like using her achievements as his own, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
which is classic men back then, am I right?
Exactly. Yeah. But it's also like, and
I love that scene where she clears all the officers out of the room. She's like, "Oi!" and they all walk out.
And it kind of like nearly ends in her detriment, where like he's kind of like when she calls him and says, "Hey, I've got a lead," and he says, "Oh, we already know. We're on the plane. We're heading to the house. We got him." Oh, great! Like that's great. I'll just
We got no more frequent flyer points left.
I'll come back you up. I'll come help you. Nah, go like check out this other woman's house. That's
but he's like, fuck off.
Just go do loose ends.
He's like, don't call back this number.
But like, we couldn't have done it without you. And then he nearly inadvertently like kills the girl. Like,
oh, so much.
Yeah, but it's almost it's like
he's trying as polite as he can just to get rid of Jodie Foster. He's like, you've done your job, now fuck off.
He's quite egotistical in that way, but it's kind of like that manipulative kind of like, like that's great that you did that, but it's because I did this. It's constantly
what a
that.
Dickhead.
Yeah.
What a dickhead.
Oh, and it's constantly like so, and it's like using her as well. Like, so what are you thinking? And it's like, you think it's like, at first you're like, it's a test, but it's like,
everyone's using Jodie Foster in this film. Anthony Hopkins is using her, the police are using her.
Yeah. And it's that thing as well, because she's like trying so hard to please, so to speak, to please her dead father, to please the herself and like, the goals of her career, to please, her boss, the FBI
Is she trying to please people?
Almost. I think so. I think, she's it's all linking back to that lambs thing. It's just
you and the lambs, man.
Oh, dude.
Let's title talk it.
Yeah, let's title talk. The silence of the lambs.
Were there some silent lambs in this film? No. The title is a metaphor. Which you know why I introduced title talk? For this exact fucking reason. Because when I see a title like that, I expect some fucking lambs and some fucking silence. You know what? There was some silence in the film. There's some great silent moments. I will give it.
And
I didn't see a single fucking lamb this entire film.
I did. There was the picture that he drew of her holding the lamb. And I guess,
really? I must have missed that.
I know, like in the cell, like when it's like goes over his drawings and he's drawn like a thing of Jodie Foster.
I saw Jodie Foster's face. Yeah.
She's holding a lamb.
Ah.
So.
Oh, okay. I would have done this differently.
That lamb was silent, even though it was a drawing.
Okay, I guess in a technicality, there was a silent lamb.
Hey.
But the reason I wanted to do title talk in the first place is because of those wanky metaphor titles, which half the time are actually quite cool, because it's like when they drop the title in the middle of the film.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say it. I thought he was very close to saying it, because he says
they always,
screaming of the lambs.
They always just say the lamb's still screaming. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, just say the line. Because you're waiting for him to drop the line, and he doesn't.
But he does, yeah, because I don't think the lambs will ever be silent.
No, also would have been very cheesy if he did say it. He's
God,
like, do you think there'll be a silence of the lambs?
What a horrible image to wake that's the thing that keeps you up at night. Those screaming like lambs going to slaughter.
So wait, I must be confused in that story. So what was happening? Was there just like...
So she got sent to her cousins, I think like her uncle's farm.
But who was killing the lambs? Who was slaughtering them?
There was a farm. So it was like a cattle farm.
Oh, so it was just
they were going to slaughter.
Okay.
They were like for the meat. And she woke up one morning to lambs screaming in the barn, and went down, and she's just dealing with the loss of her dad. I think it wasn't long after that actually happened. She's just
what a great place
there.
to send a child dealing with death.
Yeah, and then there's that great just image of that she unlocks the pen and tries to get them to run away, and they all just stand there in the line.
Well, the image in your head, you don't see this in the movie.
No, but that's what she said happened. Like that image that the writer is like using, I guess, like of them all just lining up for slaughter and not.
Well, this is in your
escaping.
head, Brenton. This is.
Yeah.
We don't physically see this in the film.
No. But I mean the image that she's talking about.
Yeah, the one it conjures in the audience's
mind.
Right. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And like of just these lambs standing there to slaughter and not escaping, even though they're given the opportunity to. And again, I feel like that like links in again with the movie. Yeah.
I like that. I like what they represent. I love that the lamb, represents, that one person she can't save. And, and she'll always hear the screams. And I love that. And I love that phone call he gave her at the end. And like, I love that he's like in like Aruba or something like that. Yeah. He's like in some like weird like Caribbean island. And
that guy, that bloody psychiatrist.
I was glad he died, to be honest with him. I didn't like him.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't like him at all. I'm like, you kill him, Anthony Hopkins. Like,
what's the name of the killer? Oh, well, I can't disclose that information, but my name is such and such.
That was such a good scene, by the way. I love it when he meets the congresswoman in the airport, and he's just like, because I recognize the mask, because that's a very famous mask that he's wearing, and I love it, and she's just like, oh, what's his name? He's like, are your nipples going to harden? Like, with the balls on Anthony Hopkins to say that. I'm just like, I have trust you. And you're like, you fucking idiots. Why are you listening to this lunatic? And like, as if in real life, like this congressman would meet with the lunatic just to get the location of the sun. It's like, he'd been escorted to this airport. I'm like,
I think like the character was like in his prime was like the top the top of the top. Like
he would have been like the
psychiatrist.
Charles Manson of his day. Like,
Oh no, I mean he was a brilliant psychiatrist.
oh, okay,
So I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's why they're listening to him. They're listening to him in that.
Love the
aspect
classic
of-
newspaper headlines for the exposition and stuff.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like means to an end. It's like, oh, we need this guy's brain.
Yeah.
But it sucks that he's, a mass murdering serial killer that eats people.
He's a murderer.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, well, given that information, just put him away and just don't ever, need his help. That's another thing that's just interesting in the film, that they all feel like they need his counsel.
I didn't buy that at all. I'm like, why are you all putting all your eggs in this one basket of Anthony Hopkins? Like, isn't there literally any other avenue you could get to capture this guy? Like, any other witnesses, like, any other evidence? It's just all riding on this one guy. Like, a convicted serial killer who's been in the cell for 8 years. I'm like, it's really stretching the disbelief here. Like, it didn't bother me to the point where I'm like, boo, but I was still like,
I guess that's just the world they're in. Like, this
Yeah.
guy's just so insanely
In a
smart that
world.
it's like... But it's, I just think it's interesting that the characters never really back themselves. They
No.
never go, we don't need this lunatic. Like, he's eaten people. He's not worth listening to in that regard. But God,
you know what I'd love to see Anthony Hopkins do? I'd love for him to do like a cooking show as like Hannibal Lecter.
Oh my God,
like an
no.
like an SNL skit where like he's just like in a kitchen and he's making like a souffle or something like that. Like he's teaching how to make
He's
a cake.
cooking the liver with the farm.
Well, no. You see like Anthony Hopkins like it's like this is how you make hello audience. This is how you make a cake. Put in some flour and let it rise. And he does this for like 5 minutes. And only at the end do you realize he like cuts the cake open and there's like a head. There's like a head in the cake or something like that. I would love it if Anthony Hopkins did something like that. Oh, but speaking of heads, love the scene where she goes to the garage.
Yeah.
Again, Jodie Foster, you fucking idiot. You go to this garage in the middle of the night in the rain, like with this like creepy as hell dude, with this like cab driver who won't even get out of the vehicle. And like she just goes to the carriage. I thought the door shut, by the way, because you hear this sound from the outside and I thought she was trapped in there. And then she finally sees that head. And I'm like, oh, this is just, it's just a trap.
Oh, dear.
I swear she just makes, but it's like classic horror film where they just go into that room they shouldn't and you're like, get out.
Yeah, I guess I wonder what the protocol is of if this garage is a bit creepy, I need backup. Like it's,
yeah,
you know what I
some
mean?
cop's
Like
just driving down the motorway. It's like, what do you need backup for? Oh, it's really scary. Like she's just like,
yeah. But I guess that's
again, she's a trainee. Like,
yeah, that's
she's,
that kind of.
she's still in school. I don't know why they're getting this woman to do this in the first place. Are there no other active FBI agents? Like, I don't know.
I thought the point was that all the active ones had failed. Like to get
it's like
to Lecter.
post-apocalyptic, like they're all dead.
to
You're
get
the last
to
of the
Lecter,
FBI.
Like he wouldn't interact with them, and so
yeah.
So Nathan,
Yeah.
I'd like to have a little chat about this film's poster.
This film's poster.
Yeah, mate.
So, Brenton, this film's poster, Silence of the Lambs.
Oof.
I really love this poster.
This poster's excellent, isn't it?
Yeah, one of the better ones, I think. Simple, striking, yellow.
Great font, great color scheme, great imagery. Oh.
Yeah. That is Jodie Foster, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. I love the yellow eyes and the yellow moth. It's funny because I didn't realize the moth was like going to be this huge motif in it. The cocoon of, the caterpillar coming out as a butterfly.
The catalyst for change, yeah.
Yeah, the change. Well, yeah. I wonder if the lambs will ever come out of their cocoon.
Wonder if she'll ever change. Oh,
We'll
Bill
never
won't.
know.
He's been shot in the chest 3 times.
Cracky, she shot him a lot at the end. Remember when she finally the lights come back on, she's like bam, 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 bam. Like
Yeah.
he did.
Yeah, he did, son.
He still did.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
he's gone.
I wonder if she just sat there and she's like in the backup, because normally in the movies the backup just arrives after that.
Yeah, yeah.
But in this movie it doesn't.
He just hard cuts to they're clearing that house, yeah.
Yeah, she's just lying there. She's like at the top of the world going like, oh, so how you been? Like, yeah. But yeah, really good post. I wouldn't change anything about it.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. I like because also it saves the reveal of Anthony Hopkins, which is
Yes,
great.
yes.
Like, he's on none of the marketing material. Like,
Which is right, as he should be, because he actually isn't a huge part of this film. In
No,
terms of
he
screen
really
time.
isn't.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, again, I was very surprised how little he was in this film. I thought there was going to be in a lot.
And he won the best lead actor for his Oscar.
Oh, was it lead?
Yeah.
Really?
He won
Wow.
won lead and she won lead actress.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go. Well,
So
they
they-
definitely deserved it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was quite impressed with that. Cool. All right. Well, should we hand it over to the people?
Power to the people.
Power to the people.
What are you guys thinking? What are you saying?
Because, we're just two idiots giving our own opinion. That we're probably wrong about most things. I know I probably sound like an imbecile for saying thumbs down for this film.
I've definitely been wrong about things. So yeah, and I will continue
Rocky one.
Not that one. No, I will continue to be wrong about things for many, many years to come.
But
so what are the people saying?
Well, on Rotten Tomatoes, the be-all end-all for collating film criticism, this film's got 95%. So the vast majority of people love this film, and I do want to reiterate, I did like this film quite a lot.
Yeah, of course. You said you said some great things about the film.
Yeah,
and,
but I just don't. Yeah, and we've been through this.
Yep.
Although I feel like I still haven't articulated my point.
Oh, don't, dude! It's okay.
It's okay.
we ripped on West Side Story. I mean, and everyone loves that movie. So
that's true. Yeah. Okay. So should we see what the people are saying?
Yeah.
So Dave Kerr, he's from the Chicago Tribune. He didn't like it. He gave it a rotten.
Oh, rotten.
And Dave said, "It's a gnarled, brutal, highly manipulative film that at its center seems morally indefensible." So
wow, yeah.
Morally indefensible. I think he's saying what I've been trying to say, as in, what's the lesson? What's the good guy lesson here? Hunt down a serial killer and hopefully they'll help you deal with your demons, or what's the morals of this?
Do you want me to answer?
Sorry,
or
that was not rhetorical.
A rhetorical question? I don't even necessarily think it. Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of things. I think one, don't deal with the devil. Don't deal with the devil.
It's true, yeah. She shouldn't have gone Anthony in the first place.
And two, fight the chaos. Fight the chaos,
Fight.
and you will kind of be in a better position than you would be if you didn't.
Yeah.
Take the step forward. But in doing so, it's not worth dealing with the devil to save your soul to a certain extent.
Should listen to Ghost Rider. Don't do it as a devil. Thanks, Dave.
Don't do it, yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
But yeah, interesting opinion, yeah.
Gene Siskel, also from the Chicago Tribune, was the guy from the Chicago Tribune.
Can I just say on the morally indefensible bit, I understand what he's saying, because the content of this film is very morally ambiguous. It's pretty horrible.
Because I was kind of cheering when Anthony Hopkins started eating the dudes. I was like,
oh wow,
not as in keep going.
Yeah,
I was just
not keep eating.
Yeah, if you're hungry, just do it. But in the same way, when you watch Game of Thrones, and you just see them just chopping through wood, they're just mowing down guys left, right, center. It was that kind of thing. I was just more. I was just when you're in the arena, in Gladiator, and there's just death and decay.
But I mean, there's basically no good people in this film.
No, God no. Which is real life. No one's good, Brenton. Not even me.
Or me. So who's next?
So Gene, he wrote a rotten review as well, and he said Foster's character, who is appealing, is dwarfed by the monsters that she is after. I'd rather see her work on another case.
Sure, yeah, she's a great character.
I'd love to see more of her. Do you know if she's in the sequels, or does she come back?
I think she's in the next one. I think she's in the Hannibal movie, I believe.
Oh, okay, cool.
But there's another one after that I don't... Oh, I can't remember.
Oh, okay, nice.
Jodie Foster doesn't play her again. I know that.
Oh.
She's replaced by Julianne Moore, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, Julianne Moore is also fantastic, but
I don't even...
Who else is redhead woman in Hollywood?
I've never seen the sequels, dude.
Is Jessica Chastain the one after that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've never seen the sequels, though, so I can't vouch for those movies or,
Yeah, I'm curious about them, though.
Yeah, same.
Although I'd still rather watch Blade 2 over Hannibal 2.
Oh, Blade 2, yes, please.
Richard Corliss from Time Magazine, Time. He wrote a great review. He said, a pretty sharp new thriller. He wrote a pretty sharp new thriller in the year 2008. Can I just point out? The film critic for Time Magazine it literally says October 7, 2008.
Wait, is that the date it was posted online, or potentially, or
No.
because if it was, I
It's
don't
funnier
know.
if we say this is just when he wrote
All
this.
right, yeah,
He's
right, fine.
have you heard of this new thriller, Silence of the Lambs?
Guys, have you heard of it? It was pretty underrated, when it came out.
Next, you should see this new film called called Jurassic Park. I hear it's pretty good too.
Jurassic World? No, Jurassic Park. It's great. Just came out.
Good on him. Thanks, Richard. Greg R. He gave it 4.5 stars. Greg said, "This is a really unpopular opinion, but the one nitpick I have is that Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter might be just a touch off-putting for the rest of the film."
I mean, yeah, but isn't that the point? Like, he's certainly off-putting.
Greg, this is the fucking point of the movie. Oh, Greg, this is a genuine review on Rotten Tomatoes. Fuck, I love this website.
Oh, it's great.
Good on you, Greg. And two more. So Mick D, he gave it 5 stars. And Mickey D. Is that his real? We've had some weird names on this podcast. Mickey D wrote, Hopkins' performance is absolutely amazing and terrifying. The plot is understandable and creative.
For a second, I thought he was like he was criticizing it, but it's like, I think that's meant to be a positive.
Yeah.
It is complicated,
it's understandable
and understandable.
and creative. Like, it's creative, but you understand it. Like,
Revelations.
Thanks, Mickey D.
Mickey D, you're the man.
I love the people who, like, we can't talk. Like, we're doing a podcast on our own.
Oh, like,
by the way, our opinions are as goofy as these guys.
I mean, we go all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, the way my brain works, it's like, I feel like I'm going around, like, honestly, sometimes doing this show, I feel like I'm going around in circles and everything I'm saying makes no sense.
I know.
And that's
14
how I'm
episodes
feeling.
in, we're as incoherent as anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, if you got an opinion, just put it out there, man, and let's talk about it.
I just love that this guy finished the film. He's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to log online. I'm going to my Rotten Tomatoes account. I'm just going to write this quick review.
Great performance. Plot is creative and understandable.
And last review, this comes from Mr. O, who I think is one of the best Avatar pictures I've ever seen in my life.
Can I see it?
He looks like Pablo Escobar in this picture, just like
yeah.
And he gave it 5 stars, and he wrote, "This film turns the experience of being a woman into the premise of a horror film, that the way Get Out does the same for the black experience. This film explores the way women are gazed upon, objectified, and reduced to commodities with razor-sharp precision. An absolute classic. 100% on the money."
Yeah, I mean, like, it's an interesting opinion, and I feel like that is in the film.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's more in the film. For me, like, that's not what I said.
I thought that is, in a nutshell, what Silence of the Lamb is.
Yeah.
And, like, when you put it in that framing, like, what a genius idea to have the female gaze as a premise, in the same way that Get Out had, like, you know, the white gaze as a perspective. Like, God, that's genius. Like, that is genius.
I don't know.
I wonder if that was, like, part of the inception of why this was written, or this story was told.
I don't know. I feel like the premise, it's called Silence of the Lambs.
It's just about lambs being silent, damn it.
But so yeah, I feel like that's part of it. I feel like that's an important, like,
I feel like the female gaze,
theme.
like the male gaze, is a major element of this film.
I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. I don't know if it is what made the writer put the pen to paper.
Oh, okay.
I feel like...
Do you reckon he was in a barn one year?
I feel like that's part of it, but I feel like it's deeper than that because and the only reason I say that is because the film's all about the lambs and the silence of the lambs and linking to that past trauma, which for me, it doesn't... That part of the film doesn't matter whether she's a man or woman or whatever. I feel like that as a character, like, those other themes really inform that character and inform kind of the world we're in, and it's very powerful, and I totally agree, but I'm not power. Again, it's that thing of, like, I'm not sure if that's the seed that made the writer put pen to paper, but I feel like it's the nut that the seed is in, if that makes sense.
Sure, Brenton. You do you, man. Like...
Oh, dude. What the hell? What the fuck am I saying? But do you get it?
It's classic movie banter.
What an episode! What the hell?
Oh, Silence of the Lambs.
Man, Silence of the Lambs. What a day.
I'm really glad we watched this.
Dude, I'm so glad we watched it.
Like,
what a conversation, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me, hey?
I know. I must say, I wasn't glad we saw Passion. I mean, I'm sorry, The Last Temptation of Christ. But after Blade and Lambs, I think I'm back on board. Like, I've recovered from Defoe as Jesus, and I'm now, I'm enthralled.
you're not out. You're in.
Yes.
Out, am I?
Could you imagine Willem Dafoe as Hannibal Lecter? Just like,
Oh, good lord.
oh my gosh.
Oh, good lord. Can you imagine him in, like, the cell? Like, you know when, like, Osborn's, like, got the split personality thing happening? He's, like, talking to himself and he's in the mirror. And he's all like, oh, what is the line he says? It's like...
In Spider-Man, like...
Yeah, there's many lines.
Yeah, and he's talking to himself and he's like, he's trying to convince, like, evil Defoe is trying to convince good Defoe to, like, be the goblin. Oh, I can't remember it.
Go for the heart or something like that. It's like, yeah, it's
that's right,
dude. Or when he like sings "Itsy Bitsy Spider."
Yeah.
Itsy Bitsy Spider went up the water spout. Down came the goblin to blow the spider out.
He would have made a great Hannibal Lecter. Like, good on you, Willem Dafoe.
Good on you, dude.
And I think Anthony Hopkins would have made a great Jesus.
Dude, I thought you were gonna say goblin as the goblin. Anthony,
No,
Anthony.
I would have seen Hannibal Lecter as Jesus. Oh my god, could you imagine? It's like, hello, John. I've been.
Hello, Mary. Hello, Mary. Have the lambs stopped screaming?
We can't sacrifice the lamb in Christianity. Cain tried to slaughter a lamb once in the Old Testament. He's like, what shall I do, God? Shall I die on the cross?
Here I am, Clarice, on the cross.
Would you like to see the apple I've bitten? Oh, God, that would have been amazing.
Oh, man. But yeah, what an episode. I'm really glad we watched this movie. It's one of my favorites.
I hope you guys watch this movie if you haven't.
Oh, please do. And
Even though I said don't watch it, like, follow Brenton's advice and definitely watch it.
Honestly, like, give us some insight into what you think about this film.
Yeah, let us know. Like,
because I'd love to know, because I
don't know if I'm alone in this boat, if there are people who generally dislike this film. Like, by the way, which
I'm
I
sure
don't.
there are.
But
like, I'm sure there are.
Who
because
definitely are not kissing this film's ass. I want to know if there's someone who isn't kissing this film's ass.
I'm sure there is, because, yeah.
Brenton's like balls deep in this film, but like, I want to see if someone else is just, not that in love with it.
Please share your opinions. Get to us on Twitter.
In every graphic detail. Can you only tweet at Simbi, Brenton? I don't want these weird tweets. Like, only let Brenton know.
So another fun episode. The big 1-4. The next one is the big 1-5.
1-5.
15. 3 lots of 5.
No. Someone's been doing his timetables. Good job.
Yeah. I can't wait, dude.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll see you next week.
I'll see you next week.
No, I'll see you next week.
Oh, Nathan, I said I'd see you.
Damn it, Brenton. I'm afraid you're going to have to come over for dinner, old friend.
Please don't eat my liver.